Hi, Katie.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good. I was just wondering, the Sky have just announced that the fight is going to be free across all platforms in Ireland. I mean, how important is it for yourself and for your Irish fans that that the fight will be seen by everybody in Ireland?
Yeah, it's great. A great opportunity for myself and for everyone on the card really to have that platform really. It's fantastic that is being streamed for everyone to see. Yeah, what a great opportunity for everyone on the card.
And just aside from the fight on Saturday night, what do you think would satisfy your appetite in the box business and the boxing business? I mean, how many more title fights do you want? I know you're interested in having a legacy when you finally retire, but how long more or money? What's your ambitions in left in boxing now?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I don't like putting any limits on myself. I just take each fight as it comes, I suppose. But I definitely have no plans to retire anytime soon. That's for sure. I hope I'm involved in huge fights for years to come. I just want to continue to win, continue to defend my titles, and like I said, I just want to leave a fantastic legacy behind me. But right now, I don't know when I'm gonna retire or how many fights I'm gonna have left. But I'm just gonna take it one fight at a time.
Okay, just one final thing for me. I mean, how has COVID affected your gym in Vernon, in Connecticut? I mean, has anybody got the infection, or how has it impacted on your training over there?
Well, I hope nobody's gotten it. I don't know. I haven't heard anyway, but it hasn't affected me too much, to be quite honest. I live a very quiet life anyway. You know, the gym is obviously still open for all the fighters. Over these last few months, which has been great, and it's probably a bit trickier to get spars right now just because of the situation that we're in. But it's the same for everyone, I suppose. Really, all in all, it hasn't affected me too much. I don't think I'd be doing anything too much differently if the virus wasn't around.
All right. Well, best of luck.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean.
I can see we've got Kevin from the Irish Sun. Kevin, did you want to jump in with questions, please?
Okay. Hi, how's it going? Hi,
Hey,
Katie.
Kevin. How are you?
Very good, and yourself?
Yeah, not too bad.
Katie, do you believe that your experience of having boxed in a bubble already will benefit you in this fight? And like, were you nervous beforehand of the last time about what the effects of boxing in an empty arena would be?
I wouldn't say I was nervous in front of 10,000 people or whatever to actually perform well. And even with my experience as an amateur fighter, I boxed all over the world in empty stadiums as an amateur. So I think that experience alone, I knew I was going to be able to perform in an empty arena. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what her thoughts are boxing in front of an empty stadium. But I'm just focused on myself. I'm looking forward to the fight, prepared well for it, and I'm ready for whatever comes my way really on Saturday night.
What was your post-fight impression of Persoon 2 when you went away and analysed the performance? What did you do well? What did you do not so good? And were you overall pretty happy with the performance? And also, what did you make of Persoon accepting the result on the night, but afterwards not being too happy, or giving out it basically about the result?
Yeah, I couldn't care less really what the opponents are saying afterwards. It was a very, very clear victory. And anyone who says otherwise don't know anything about boxing really. Yeah, I was very, very happy with my performance. I thought my head movement was very, very good in the last fight. I'd probably stayed there probably a bit too long at times, but overall it was a very, very solid performance.
Okay, thanks, Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. If we could pass to Luke Reddy from the BBC next, please.
Hi, Katie.
Hi. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Just ask you a couple of questions. We keep seeing, you know, through the documentary and through the victories and the titles that you just overcome hurdle after hurdle. And I wondered, as with any other sportsman or woman, has your motivation changed? Like, has what gets you going changed through the journey? Because obviously the goals and the glories are changing along the way, and obviously you're getting that bit older as well. So have you changed anything mentally?
I think I'm the type of person that just focuses on one fight at a time, and I've always wanted to be involved in the big fights. That's always been my mindset. I'm not looking to pick and choose my opponents. I want to be involved in big fights, and once I have those big fights secured, I'm just focusing on that one fight. And every time I step into the ring, I suppose I want to produce a great performance, and I just want my performances to be talked about, and I want my performances to shine a good light on women's boxing as a whole. And that's always been the case. I've always wanted to bring great exposure to women's boxing, and that's been the case throughout my whole career. And so I guess my mindset really hasn't changed over the years. I just want to be the best I can be in every single fight.
You use the word legacy like a lot, and obviously this weekend we've got 3 women's fights on the card. I wondered, like, if you take yourself back to when you were young, there's going to be girls like that now. What do you think your legacy will look like? What does the legacy look like in your mind?
Well, I suppose I want girls to grow up and do even better than what I have done in my career, and that's what true legacy looks like. I think I want those young girls to grow up to be multiple times world champion, to be multiple times Olympic champion, to be considered the best ever, and I just want to inspire the next generation really to dream big dreams, I suppose. And when I was growing up, obviously there wasn't any Olympics around, there wasn't female boxers on these professional cards, and the fact that women's boxing is here in the Olympics to stay is absolutely incredible. There's a female boxing match on every single boxing card right now, which is insane. And the fact that there's 3 world title fights on one bill over the weekend, I never thought I would see that growing up. So that in itself is a great legacy, and I just want those young girls growing up to know that they can do the same, and they can do even better than what I've done. And that, as I said, that is what true legacy is all about.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luke. Next, if you pass to Jake Donovan from Boxing Sing. Jake.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Hey, Katie. Always a pleasure.
Hi, Jake. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. I wanted to ask, your last fight with Delfine, another grueling war with her. What was the recovery process like for you that you're able to return this quickly? And you look, you don't even look like you were in a fight a couple of months ago.
Yeah. I usually heal up quite well. Actually, I obviously had a few bruises after the fight, but after a few days, I was fine. I obviously didn't get back into sparring for another few weeks after the fight. But it definitely is a quick turnover. But I think that's, I felt my body had recovered. I felt like this was a great time to take another fight, really. But the recovery time is usually quite quick after the fight for myself personally. So I didn't feel like I took many heavy punches in the last fight, which is very, very important.
Okay, cool. And then I wanted to ask, you've accomplished so much, furthering the cause for, I hate to say women's boxing, but women in boxing, always fighting for equality. I know you're not putting a timeline on when you're done, but what more do you want to see, like on a trailblazing front? Like, what more would you like to accomplish?
I'd love to headline, big card after big card, I suppose, for myself personally. I'd love to see maybe the purses rising a bit more as well. Obviously the exposure is there now, and people are genuinely interested in women's boxing now, which is fantastic. And hopefully, I think we've obviously made great grounds over the last few years with the purses, and hopefully that continues as well. But really, I just want, as I said, I just want to shine a good light on women's boxing. I want people to be talking about these fights for years to come, and I want, you know, for that to happen, obviously, champion has to fight against champion, the best has to fight against the best, just like they have to do in men's boxing as well. They have to make these big fights, and I want to be involved in those big fights time after time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Katie. Always a pleasure. Best of luck this weekend.
Thanks a lot, Jake.
My pleasure.
Jake, if we go to Gavin next. Gavin.
Hi, Katie. Thanks, Dan.
Hey,
How are things, Katie?
Yeah, not
Good
too
to see
bad.
you.
How are you?
Excuse me. I'm keeping well, thank you very much. Just to begin with, I was reading just before we came on the call that the fight will be broadcast on Sky Sports Mix and on YouTube and on Facebook, which is amazing in terms of the opportunity it is to bring the fight to people who might not have Sky. And I was wondering, like, going back to, and then kind of following up on Luke's question, when you were growing up in Bray, did you have Sky yourself? Were you able to watch the likes of Eubank, Ben, Collins, and those sorts of major nights in the 90s? Because, like, I know I didn't.
Yeah, I don't think I actually don't think I did either, to be honest. I think we had Sky maybe for the last 15 or 20 years, but growing up for myself, I don't think I had Sky. So for young kids to actually have the opportunity to actually watch this fight free is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, what a great opportunity it is for myself personally, and for every other fighter on the card to showcase their talents. And again, it's an extra platform really to inspire these young girls and young boys coming up.
Yeah, and like the reason why I was asking, I suppose, is like you would have had dreams, obviously, when you were a kid of being a great boxer, right? And like the Olympic thing came along naturally, and I'm not sure how much of your dreams would have like consisted of being a professional boxer headlining on Sky Sports, you know. And like you've I'm sure you're sick of answering questions about the significance of every fight, like in a wider context, but this does feel legitimately big, really, when you kind of remove yourself from it and look at it. Like, you've headlined on Sky on a Wednesday night before in Manchester last November. You were top of the bill, but Crawler fought after you in a farewell fight. Like, this is very much your thing. Like, this is your card. You've got 2 female world title fights underneath you. Like, do you take time to consider the significance of that, or is it something maybe for a couple of years when you have a bit more time on your hands?
Yeah, I guess for myself, I'm just trying to focus on the actual fight itself, but it is fantastic when you're actually speaking about it. I'm thinking, wow, that is great. But right now, I'm just obviously just focusing on my own performance, really, on the fight itself. But I guess it's only when I probably will retire from the sport, when I'm actually looking back on these things, I'll think, oh gosh, that was actually that really was legacy building. That really was fantastic. But right now, my mind is just completely on the fight itself, and but it is a great opportunity. I'm so privileged really to be in this situation and in this position, and yeah, what a great opportunity it is on Saturday night to actually showcase my talents in front of people who may never have had Sky Sports before. So it is fantastic.
Thanks a million, Katie. Best of luck.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thanks, Gavin. If you go to John Denham from Boxing News next, please.
Hi, Katie. How's it going?
Hi, how are you, John?
Good, thank you. Thank you. What do you think of Gutierrez herself? Do you see any particular threats in her? Like, what do you make of her as an opponent?
Yeah, I think she's very good. She's obviously going into this fight unbeaten as well. I know she's not as well established as someone like Persoon or some of the other girls have fought, but I think she's actually a lot better than what people think. I'm expecting a very, very tough fight. She can be very tricky at times, and very awkward as well. So these are the kind of fighters that are very hard to look well against at times, I think. But I'm coming into this fight just like you, to really prepare for anything that comes my way on Saturday evening. I'm prepared to go into the trenches if needed be, and I prepare for every fight as if it's going to be my toughest fight to date. So this fight is no different.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask whether the build-up to this has felt a bit different. Because obviously with Persoon, you had, if not a grudge, at least that kind of history and something to prove. And obviously it's not the case with Gutierrez. Has that kind of affected you in a way?
It hasn't affected me at all. To be honest, I know that as an amateur, I went into fights complacent before, and that's when you actually lose fights. So I can't afford at any stage to go into any fight complacent or thinking that this is going to be an easy fight. This is professional boxing, and anything can happen. And I am prepared to go into the trenches, like I said, if needed be. I'm prepared for whatever comes my way on Saturday evening. And yeah, prepare for this fight like I do for any other fight. I prepared meticulously as always, and yeah, I'm looking forward to showcasing that on Saturday night.
Great. And finally, you mentioned the sort of big fights you're looking for. Is there anyone in particular that's particularly appealing for a big fight in the future? I don't know whether that would be just McCaskill, the rematch for all those welterweight titles, or any other names that sort of you're thinking that would be a big, good headlining fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid to mention Amanda Serrano's name. I'm not sure. I know that fight has fell through so many times, but it's obviously still a fight that people will be interested in. Jessamine McCaskill's obviously a huge fight as well. There's so many girls really. Obviously Chantel Cameron has been mentioned as well. I'm willing to go up in the weights as well, and there's obviously a few great names at a super featherweight division as well. There's definitely no shortage of big fights out there, which is fantastic. But I'm willing to step in the ring with anyone really, and yeah, I'm not sure what's next, but right now just focus on Saturday night.
Yeah, well, and finally, yeah, I was going to ask if obviously your great fight with Natasha Jonas at the Olympics, it's more than 8 years ago now, so maybe it's ancient history, but has she been a name that you thought could make for a good fight as a pro?
Yeah, I think that would be a fantastic fight actually. I think Natasha showed in her last fight that she's still capable of producing great performances. She is at that level. It's a fight that people will be very, very interested in. So if that's a fight that people want to see, I'm very, very happy to take that fight, and I'm sure so is she as well. That is a huge fight, especially over here in the UK. It's a mega fight really. So yeah, I'll be very, very interested in that.
Great. Well, that's all from me, but thanks very much and best of luck for Saturday.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, John. If we go to Phil from PA Media next, Phil.
Hi there, Katie.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I was just seeing some recent comments from Eddie Hearn about the prospects of you fighting in Ireland again at some point before you retire. What's your kind of take on that, when you might want to do it, how eager you are to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to fighting back home. I'm not sure when that's going to be. I kind of leave that stuff up to my team really, but I'm at a stage where I'm not really concerned about where I fight. I'm just concerned about fighting in the big fights and then being involved in huge mega fights. And where I fight is, I mean, that's not really up to me. So, but yeah, I do hope to fight at home. It would be a shame if I didn't fight in Ireland before I retire. So we'll see.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Phil. So we've got 10 minutes left with Katie. So we just try and get through as many questions as we can now. We can try and limit it to one or two still. We should be able to fire through a few more. If we pass over to Shane Dyer from Boxing Social next, please.
Cheers, Dan. Hey, Katie.
Hi, Shane. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks.
Good.
Yeah.
Looking back at your professional career, it's safe to say that your toughest opponent so far has been Delfine Persoon.
Mm-hmm.
She's opted for that approach to make the fight scrappy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that your future opponents could possibly think that's the blueprint into beating you? And are you expecting that from Gutierrez this weekend?
Maybe so. I'm not too sure what my future opponents are thinking, but like I said, I will be prepared for whatever comes my way in any given fight, and I'm not sure. I think Persoon is unusual in that she has such a big engine as well. That's what made her a difficult opponent. I think it's her engine and her awkwardness, and I'm not sure there's any other fighter out there with a similar style. But regardless of what comes my way, I think I've shown that I can overcome any type of style, any type of opponent, and yeah, whatever comes my way on each fight night, I will be prepared for it.
And I just wanted to touch on some recent comments from Chantel Cameron this week. The gist of it is basically she thinks she'd make you crumble if you two were to fight. And I just wanted your thoughts on them comments.
I'm not the type of fighter that crumbles, so yeah, we can just move on from that. I'm just focused on Saturday night right now, and if the fight happens between myself and Chantel, we can see then. We'll see who crumbles.
Nice one. Thank you, Katie.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. If you go to Jonathan from Pro Boxing Fans next, please.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Yeah, how are you, Jonathan?
Yeah, good, thanks. Anthony Joshua made some comments today saying that you're a special fighter and you're going to leave a lasting legacy. What do those sort of comments mean from AJ?
Yeah, from such a legacy building fighter himself, that obviously means so much. Anthony Joshua has always been a huge support of myself over the last few years and of women's boxing itself. So yeah, very, very grateful for those comments. It's always obviously great to hear nice things about yourself, isn't it? So when it's coming from someone like Anthony Joshua, that makes it even more special.
And just one more. ESPN have you ranked number 2 pound for pound. Obviously, Claressa Shields is up there as well. Where do you rank yourself, if I can just ask?
Oh gosh, I don't think I can put myself. It's not really for me to put myself in number 1 pound for pound rankings. That's for other people to say, I suppose. But I would obviously love to see. I'd obviously love to be considered the best pound for pound fighter in the world, but that's not for me to say.
Yeah. Thanks, Kay. Best of luck.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you go to Joe O'Neill next, please.
Hey, Katie. Thanks for taking the call.
Hey, Joe. No worries. Yeah.
My main question is about Gutierrez here and how she's been extremely respectful in the build-up, and she has talked about how you've been an inspiration to her. I'm just wondering, does that affect how you approach a fight? Because I know with Persoon and even Lina Dartu, there was a bit of bite coming from them. Like, does that make it when you have an opponent who is as outspoken as they were? Does that make it easier to get up for a fight, or is it all the same for you?
Yeah, it's all the same for me, really. I don't even read. I never know what's being said before the fights anyway. So regardless of whether they're being respectful or regardless of whether they're being disrespectful, I'm just in there to win, really, and to produce a great performance. So yeah, I mean, I don't really take too much notice of what's being said before the fight. Yeah, I'm just there to win and to produce the best performance I can possibly produce.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. If we go to Ames from Boxing News TV, please.
Hi, Katie. Ames here from Boxing News TV. Pleasure to meet you. Just a couple of questions for you, Katie. There's the debate, as there should be, regarding women's boxing and equal pay. I saw recently online, led by some of the female fighters, the debate there again. Where do you side on this? Those pushing for equal pay, some saying we need more eyes commercial value on women as well. Where do you stand on that in regards to parity between male and female boxing?
I mean, I would love to see the purses obviously rising. I think over the last few years we've made great grounds in that. I'm personally very happy with the purses that I've received for the fights each and every time. But I wouldn't say no to a pay rise either. So, but I am very, very happy, and I feel very, very privileged to be in the position that I am in, headlining fights and getting the purses that I have been getting. But I guess it is very low in comparison to what the men are getting. But that's the way it is, really. I hope that increases, and we are slowly building ground. That it takes time, I think, to build ground with stuff like that, and we have done great things over the last few years, and hopefully that will keep rising.
And my last question for you is, we've talked about some potential fighters, people that are looking to have fights with you in the future. There's a Cyborg looking to chase you down, a UFC crossover fight. She wants that fight with you. Eddie would like to make that fight as well. Is that in the cards realistically? And what weight, if that were to happen? She's walking around 170. I guess she'd have to come down if that was to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure what's next for me, but I'd be very, very open to fighting Chris Cyborg, if that's a fight that people want to see. Absolutely. But yeah, I assume if that fight does happen, she would have to come down and maybe as some sort of a catch weight. Unfortunately I can't get up to 170, so she will have to obviously come down. And but yeah, I'm very, very open to that. I want to be involved in big fights, and if that's a fight that people want to see, well, that's great. Yeah.
Thanks, Katie. All the best.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, if we go to Donut, Corby.
Hey, Katie, how's it going?
Yeah, how are you?
Not too bad. Just to follow up on that, Chris Cyborg is obviously a name that has been talked about. She's a giant star in the MMA world, maybe the biggest alongside Amanda Nunes. You're of course one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest in boxing. Is that, like, you've just spoken a bit about it. What is it about Chris Cyborg that intrigues you, and do you feel like stylistically she's ripe to make the switch over to boxing? And also, to follow up on that, Scott Coker mentioned to me recently that the only way that Bellator could get that deal done is if you crossed over to her world after she went to yours. Is that something you're interested in? I would imagine not.
Yeah, gosh, I can't imagine myself fighting in a cage. I can fight on my feet, all right, but if you get me on the ground, I would be clueless. So if I was crossing over, I'd have to do a lot of other training, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever else they do. But yeah, if the fight was to happen, it would only be in the boxing ring for myself. But yeah, I'm not too sure whether the fight is going to happen, but that's a fight, that's a name that has been thrown around over these last few months, and I am very happy to step into the ring with her if she's open to that.
How much of her and women's MMA do you know?
I obviously just know that the big names, I guess, like you mentioned, Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg, and obviously Holly Holm as well. Holly Holm, as you mentioned, as a potential opponent as well over these last few months. So I guess I just know the bigger names. I wouldn't be watching MMA typically from. I wouldn't be the biggest fan, or I wouldn't know too much about it really. But I just know the big names.
Okay. Next up, we go to J.R. Bell.
Hello, KT. How are you doing?
Yeah, how are you, JR?
Doing good, doing good. Just saying here with your fight against Gutierrez, what type of experience do you think you'll get from this particular fight that could build you for bigger fights in the future in 2021 or 2022?
Yeah, I guess for myself, every fight is more experience, and I think this opponent in particular is very different to any of my other opponents that I have fought. I think she's actually a lot better than what people think. I think she's a lot trickier than what people think as well. And obviously the last few fights I've been faced against, just, I guess, typical fighters, very scrappy fighters, and then this particular opponent is more stylistic than what I faced before. So it is gonna be a completely different challenge, and because of that, it's more experience for myself.
With this being like her first fight in the UK, do you think that she's gonna come in very aggressive, or do you like expect something else from her?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what way she's gonna come in. I know from watching her some of her previous fights, she is more of a boxer than a fighter. But I'm not too sure if that's gonna change on Saturday night. But like I said, I'm well prepared for whatever comes my way on Saturday evening.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have Terry Harper waiting to come in. So this one will have to be the last question. So if we go to Ronan, and then we'll let Katie get on. Thank you very much, everyone.
Katie, hope all's well. Just two very quick ones for you. I know the lads touched on it at the top about this being your second fight in the bubble. Having had that experience, like, did you find yourself in the ring having to adapt at all, even coaching wise or in the ring fighting, or was it much the same once it got going?
Yeah, it wasn't any different for me at all, actually. Once I stepped into the ring, it was just the same as usual. I think whether there's 10 people in the crowd or 10,000 people in the crowd, I'm always there to win. I'm always there to perform, and for the most part, I kind of only listen to the usual voices anyway. You only hear the usual voices, like so my coach Rossina might and my just my team. Really, they're the only voice that I actually zone in on during fight night. So regardless of whether I'm boxing in front of a big crowd or not, it was all the same for me.
And just on a broader point, such as the quality of women's world title fights now, you'll often see people saying we should be seeing these fights over 12 rounds or 3-minute rounds. As a pioneer or someone at the forefront of the boxing and changes in the sport, would you be an advocate for any changes in that regard in terms of the length of fights or the length of rounds?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's pros and cons to both, really, to 2-minute rounds and 3-minute rounds. I think with the 2-minute rounds, it's obviously a faster pace and it's very, very exciting to watch. Obviously, with the 3-minute rounds, then you probably will see probably maybe a few more stoppages, a few more knockdowns. But I'm not too sure what the best move is in that respect. Whether it's a 2-minute round or a 3-minute round. I'm not too sure the results would change too much, to be quite honest. But yeah, I'm not too sure.
That's great, Katie. Thanks a million.
Yeah, thanks, Roland.